Buenos días, clase. Hoy vamos a hablar de verbos que cambian de raíz. Verbos que cambian de raíz. Ustedes ya han estudiado, ya estudiamos unos verbos que cambian de raíz, pero esos son los verbos de a IE. La semana pasada. Y hoy estudiamos los verbos de O a UE y los verbos de a I. So, una diferencia, ¿sí? Antes, ahora. If you'll notice, I put a boot on here, and I want you to think about why I might have put a boot on here. Hopefully you'll remember later. Miramos el verbo almorzar. El verbo almorzar significa to eat lunch or to lunch. If you'll notice, whenever we have our stem changing verbs, when you look them up in the dictionary, it'll have your regular verb here in the infinitive form ending in the R, but then afterwards it's going to put this UE, and that just means that the stem is going to change to UE. So you'll need to remember that almorzar changes from O to UE. It's in this category of the O to UE verbs. So I've gone ahead and already filled in all of our conjugations, but we're going to go in and add, instead of the O here, we're going to add UE all the way through. UE, UE, UE. Notice the nosotros form does not get the UE, UE, and UE. And then this is a regular AR verb ending, so we have O, as for two, a for usted, a for él or ella, amos for nosotros, an for ustedes, and an for ellos. So repita, almuerzo, almuerzas tú, almuerza usted, almuerza ella, almorzamos. Let's try that one again. Almorzamos. Almuerzan ustedes y almuerzan ellas. Our next verb that changes from O to UE is the verb to sleep. We already know a verb that means to sleep. No, not really to sleep. It means to rest. And it also starts with the same letter with the de. See if you remember what that verb is. So let's look at the conjugations. Repita, yo duermo. Tú duermes. Usted duerme. Ella duerme. Nosotros dormimos. Notice the O and also the I. Repita, dormimos. Ustedes duermen. Ellos or ellas duermen. I forgot my N there. Duermen. Do you remember the verb that means to rest? It was descansar. We learned it earlier because descansar is a regular verb, whereas the verb dormir needs you to change this little guy here. But dormir means to sleep and descansar means to rest. Here are some more stem changing verbs. All of these verbs are in the same category, O to UE. The verb costar, so the cuesta and cuestan that we used earlier for our clothes last chapter came from this verb, costar. You generally aren't going to see the yo or the to form. You don't generally talk about I cost, and you don't generally talk to people and ask them how much they cost. So really we're only going to see this one in the about category. We're talking about one thing or several things and how much they cost. But I want you to go ahead and fill out a verb table for that verb anyway. Our next verb that we're going to look at is poder. This verb you've been using since the very beginning of Spanish 1 in August when you said puedo ir al baño. So this verb means to be able to. It's most often used with an infinitive after it. And it looks something like this. Puedo, and then the next verb we'd leave all alone, so like ir, to go. Puedo ir al baño. Right? You've been saying that for a while. I want you to go ahead and make a verb chart with all of the forms of poder also. You already did that with costar, and I want you to make a whole other table on your notes with poder. Our last verb that we're going to be looking at is the verb volver. It means to return, to come back. It's only used for people. It's not used for things like books, when you return books to the library. So when someone goes on a trip and comes back, it's vuelve. Notice we have an AR verb up here, so the endings are going to change for these ER verbs. I want you to go ahead and make a whole another table of all the different forms of the verb volver in your notes for me, please. Our last category of stem changing verbs are verbs that change from to e, just to e. Remember our other verbs we learned last chapter, like empezar and preferir, the changed to an yeah. And these guys that we're learning here just changed to an e. So go ahead and started the verb already for you, and let's look at the stem changes. So instead of the in the infinitive, we're going to choose an e. So sirve, 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 sirve. There's no sirve here, right? It's serve. Here we have sirve and sirve again, and then it is an IR verb, so careful. We have sirvo, sirves for two, sirve usted, sirve él o ella, servimos. Make sure you got the emos and not an hemos or an amos. Sirven ustedes and sirven ellos or ellas. The last verb we're going to study today is also an to e verb, just like servir. It means to ask for, but we're really going to use it to talk about ordering food. But if you want to ask for a car to go somewhere with your parents, you guys probably can't ask for cars yet. But if you want to ask for lunch money, or if you wanted to ask for permission to go out with your friends from your parents, this is a verb you would use, pedir. So, repita, yo pido, tú pides, usted pide, él pide, nosotros pedimos, ellos piden, that's down here, and ustedes piden. Well, let's see if you remember. Do you remember my question? Why did we put the boot on there? So remember, this boot that we had was our stem changing boot because it changes for all of the forms inside here. So all of these guys inside have the E. The changes here, but there's no E here. So that's why we have these call these stem changing boot verbs. Lastly, I would like you to make 5 sentences, please. So here is the subject and the verb I want you to use for each subject. So just conjugating a verb does not make a sentence. So I want you to make a complete sentence. Start with this subject, then have this verb, and add a little bit of extra information so that it reads like a whole sentence. Once you're done with these 5 sentences, you are done with your notes. Nos vemos en clase mañana. Hasta mañana.